a very interesting and powerful energy shift is about to take place as we speak, which shifts Saturn's energy mainly into a high manifesting place, if you want, up to January the 19th. That will last. That is really a very critical window we are getting into in terms of making things visible, bringing it into clear sight, and that is definitely what Saturn is helping doing, as Saturn in at present here is here in this strong powerful connection with Neptune over the edge of the end and the beginning of the zodiac. This is a very, very complex constellation in itself, and on a very basic note, it is that Saturn is helping Neptune to become visible. All the invisibility cloaks are pulled off, things are being given form, expression. It kind of, Saturn helps to make the material expression denser. It is a contracting energy which pulls down. Also gravitation is naturally ruled by Saturn, so bringing it down to Earth, that is the main thing. And Saturn now being still in Pisces, or again I should say, this is really connecting with Neptune at its very roots, you could say, because that is Neptune's sign, and Saturn has been kind of learning the vocabulary and the alphabet of how to deal with these Neptunian energies in the best way. Had time for the last 2.5 years or so. That was how long Saturn has been in Pisces. So it's been a slow, naturally process, as it is with all planetary transitions. As they travel through the signs, they become smarter, they become more adapted to that kind of energy to bring it to a real refinement in the last degrees. So Saturn is highly skilled already in tuning into the Neptunian frequency, and actually if you look at the real world, all the expressions of that, things are really coming to the surface. There are all these creative minds which are literally pulling in that that download of real insight into what's going on, and then expressing it in word, in writing, in deed, in action. And that's actually really one thing we are already in right now with Mars in its own sign here in Scorpio, and this will be going on. So this is an overlay of an additional frequency which is really helping things to become manifest. So let's look at this chart for a minute, which is the beginning of that phase, which actually, and I found this particularly telling. Look at the moon here in the 5th degree of Pisces. We get to that, what that means in the Sabian symbols in a minute. I just want to show you when Saturn finally stations after having gone backward for 5 months, which will be in by the end of November. Here is the chart. Look at the moon in this chart. That is November 28. That is the moment when Saturn is coming to a standstill. Here it is after having gone backward for, as I'll say, the last 5 months, back from Aries, which it had just pulled up to Neptune by 12 minutes of arc, not quite met that other energy yet, and truly melted and reignited a new cycle. This is still to come, actually, in a heliocentric time scale. It will be December the 11th. We are getting to this. This is actually a date you could mark in your calendar. This is a super important, powerful, energetic time, December the 11th being the center point of it. And then naturally when Saturn and Neptune will finally meet at 0 degrees and 45 minutes in the very first degree of the zodiac on February the 20th. Also this date you can mark in your calendar. Up to these conjunctions, and naturally the geocentric always is the one which brings things really into manifestation, which is the new beginning, which is the birth of a whole new concept of reality. So we have quite a bit to go here as a human race to get to that place, but yes, there is definitely the energy of a rapid growth, of a real exponential growth in the air. And I'm here also quoting from the 9 transmitting through Magenta Pixie, so I really like that one, that latest one she published on the solar eclipse of September the 21st, I guess it was, which was right at the equinox point, and that naturally is that magical place where the balancing principles are meeting. I mean, spring in itself, the moment of beginning of spring and beginning of autumn, are balance points where everything is in perfect equilibrium. Just think, day and night are exactly 12 hours, all from the South Pole to the North Pole in that moment when the sun stands vertical above the equator. Anyway, this is, I'm going off here script a little bit, sorry for that. So anyway, the moon in the 5th degree of Pisces, and I want to read you out of the Sabian symbols. Sorry, I don't have the front page anymore, it fell off, by Dane Rudyard. Also the link will be underneath. The 5th degree of Pisces is a church bazaar. The value of giving a spiritual or transcendent sanction to even the most commonplace interchanges between social persons and individual minds. Now think of the whole Charlie Kirk thing. This is really the level we are speaking of. People are bonding now on a spiritual level much stronger than before, and you may think whatever you want, and it is definitely an event which is shrouded in mystery, which makes its attraction even more important. Just think of, I mean, Charlie Kirk, just the name of that wonderful man, Charlie, kind of, you immediately think of Charlie Brown, and Kirk is Captain Kirk. So there's this amalgamation of characters which are kind of triggered in people's minds. So this name alone holds such a supercharge in itself. So I mean, it all helps, and it is definitely true that people have come back to more kind of rising above the age of information in the age of faith, which definitely is a frequency higher. It is at the spiritual plane which we are now talking of. Always think of the 4 quadrants. We have the physical, we have the mental, the emotional, and then the spiritual, naturally the emotional, and the spiritual is the progression, which definitely is an evolution from the physical and mental, which are still very important. It is that fullness of aspects which makes us truly human, and being able to stand in the middle of that cross of those 4 quadrants. That's one of the deeper meanings of that. Anyway, so again, I'm going off script a little bit. I really wanted to tell you about Saturn. Saturn gaining enormously in influence. It actually started yesterday, as the energy was set with the Sun here crossing the 9°30 mark in Libra, and naturally Earth on the other side in Aries, which is the territory of now exogram 48, the well, the source of water, where you pull up buckets from the deep unknown, bring them to the surface, and they become what you quench your thirst with. So there's a really interesting deep meaning in that, naturally in the sign of Libra, which is all about the one-to-one connection with another being. It is that really most direct interface of meeting others. Whereas Gemini is more kind of the preparation for that, or whatever the outcome in the end, where you run it in your own mind between the duality of yes or no, and Aquarius, which is way more commonplace, interpersonal, kind of more in terms of I'm addressing a whole group of people. Libra is the most pointed, one-on-one, getting to meet, to find out about one another in that area now of pulling out the buckets from the deep. So it's a very symbolically powerful, and naturally on the other side, Earth now in hexagram 21. Naturally this lasts only for about 6 days, each hexagram, and you can find the breakdown of the 64 hexagrams according to the human design system, which is an excellent addition to the zodiac. It just adds up so much more depth, so much more complexity and dimensionality. I mean, the Chinese Book of Changes, I've been a fan of it since my early 20s when I came across it through a friend. It is not just a divinatory tool, it really is the 64 expressions of our mundane life, which if you want, it really is very practical, and its symbology is down to earth. You can connect with it. So it is that water well which goes deep into the ground. Now on the other side here we have a 21, which is biting through, interestingly enough, a very Aries energy, biting through an obstacle, bringing it to even to justice. That's one of the meanings of that hexagram too, detaining something which has been which needs to be taken care of, taking it between its teeth really. So this is a very intense 6-day period we've entered just yesterday, or the day before if you want, which then leads into another really interesting, powerful 6-day episode of clarity. When you get into clarity, 57, the wind over, wind above, wind below. Wind is the carrier of spirit in the I Ching, in the Chinese system. And on the other hand, we have thunder below and thunder above, which is the arousal, which is the shock, the sudden revelation of something, a realization. It can also be a very powerful source of original energy coming in from a higher dimension, if you want. So these are kind of the core days of these two cardinal signs we are in right now. So roughly you could say from the 2nd of October roughly to the 14th, I would say, this is the core period of these two cardinal signs. Much is suggested and expected to happen in this window. Yes, the energies are high. Actually it was yesterday, now as we speak, was that comet 3I Atlas, closest flyby to Mars. So whatever that means, it's a very special addition to the present cosmic energies, and we will find out eventually what it means. Now coming back to today, to this shift of Saturn's energy, what stands out naturally is here the ascendant in the last degree of Scorpio, a very refined, rich degree of deep understanding of the mechanics of relationships. That's what Scorpio is so good at. It is going really to the depth. It's asking questions and wanting to know. It's going really to the bottom of the well, if you want. Again, it's a deep diver. So that last degree of Scorpio actually is hexagram 14. Do I say that right? Yes. Yes, 14, which is wealth in great measures, or possession in great measures. That's what it says, yes. It's a very rich degree, with Juno here in the first degree of Sagittarius. Yeah, I mean, this is now heartfelt, how people come together on a mission, on a spiritual mission. Again, remember that degree I just read of the church bazaar. It is really people's higher yearnings are wakened, if you want. So I really wanted to read actually this paragraph here out of the Sabian Symbols by Dane Rudyard on about this degree, this fifth degree, as it's so interestingly repetitive, kind of in that whole time of Saturn in that section of the zodiac. Again, 2730, it has crossed by going backwards, and is going to be stationing, as you see here once more, on the 28th of November at 2509, so safely within that mark of 25 to 2730. So this is really the laying the foundation of what's to come in the next 12 months roughly. It's always where the planet is reaching bottom, and from here it goes forward, upward again. So again, it is, what is it? It's the Capricornian nature of Pisces is coming to the surface, is the undertone, if you want. So Saturn is preparing, gaining deep insight into how Neptune works, and then once Saturn pulls up to the planet Neptune, it truly is able to surpass it and take its message out into the world and transform it, give it form. That's kind of the idea of starting into a new cycle. It's kind of a making nails with heads, I wrote down here. That is that Saturnian energy. And with Pluto down here, yeah, I mean, you can't really overstate the importance and the power of this chart of Jupiter right here on top of the horizon over Eris and Chiron. I mean, it's epic, this chart, and as so many of the charts are these days, and the whole arrangement of planets. More on that in my next recording. I mean, it's just between those two dates alone, just to give you a little forecast here of what I'm planning. Between these two dates, between today, Saturn's entry into this phase of coming to a halt and then turning back, and you see it's also here, this is not cannot be overstated, the power of where this happens within this chart when Saturn then comes to a halt. So this energy carries through into January 19 naturally, till Saturn crosses that line again, goes into the next phase, if you want. But I also looked up, as Saturn this time is kind of in retro mode through this section of the zodiac. I looked when it was really going through in direct motion, and I have the chart here in small on the side. This is April the 5th 2025. That was when Saturn in forward motion here crossed the 25 degree Pisces mark, and it was in here actually only for a short time then, because that was one of the times when Saturn appears to move really fast through the zodiac, short after it's short after the sun is kind of connecting with it on a yearly basis. That's a repetition of a rhythm, if you want. So in this phase it only was in there for 22 days, which was till April the 27th. So if you have a diary or kind of a place to look what happened in that period. Might be kind of enlightening what was laid foundations there, what was ignited as a thought, as an idea, which now is starting to really gain a concrete form, at least on the inner level, on the level of ideas, of perception, of putting the pieces together in your own mind, which is another really powerfully placed little planet, which is particularly speaking of that, which is Arrokoth, which we had repeatedly very, very powerfully placed in this chart too, naturally, as it is in that perfect opposition to Jupiter here. Arrokoth, the one which stands under the open sky, seeing the whole firmament at once, being able to really understand that this is much more complex than I ever thought. This is actually a humbling place to be at, of understanding that there's depth to everything. This all comes together. This is all happening at the same time. That's why the 9 say this is such a powerful time of rebirthing, reshifting, and resetting. I'm also listening to Paul Selig's transmissions from the guides, and they brought in another really interesting allegory of humanity literally hitting the cliff, and then all there's left, you have to learn to fly. Yes, we learn to fly. That's exactly where we're going. We're growing so fast at this time. It is actually quite intense. I guess we all go through that. So it is that great reveal and the great awakening at the same time, which awakens the seeds of genius. Yep, that's what's happening. Get ready. Take the lead. Be the voice. Give it expression, even if it's in small ways. Practice helps you get better at it, and it is there's nothing to lose but win. I mean, we're really at that place, I guess individually and collectively, where we are not capable of not going with it and getting the full intensity and also the joy which stands behind it. It's great times to be alive in. Look at the Venus South Node conjunction. Yes, it is happening. There's a bonding happening on very deep levels between people. Interesting again that this is the black moon of the Declaration of Independence, 1928. So this is really the shadow of particularly the American nation, and it is the American nation which will bring the first explosion of light into this dimension, happening pretty much as we speak. It's amazing how complex and multidimensional things are right now, but definitely the United States of America are a central hub in this awakening process to what is really going on this planet, and how can we get to a better place, how can we evolve above and beyond all those dark and difficult expressions and experiences. And we are ready for it. Yes, we are. We know better. It is just a matter of making enough noise and being heard and being seen, and in that you are emanating a frequency. We all are doing that, but the more we are conscious of it, the more it will happen. Again, that is that Neptune Saturn thing. It is really, I mean, I have been aware and listening to people who speak from other dimensions, like Jane Roberts in the 60s, 70s. I was aware of Seth Speak and all of that. So I guess all of you here in this club, we are aware of these higher teachings, which are literally helping us to deal with the 3D reality, because they give us a greater perspective and allow us not to get too attached to the flat earth experience, which I guess is what 3D really means, that you're really stuck in all which is visible and concrete and nothing beyond. Needs a little imagination to think of Earth as a globe, I guess. Anyway, one has to rise to a bit of a higher perspective. Anyway, enough of that. But it's just saying this is the chart of falling in love with something or other, and it is the community which counts for a higher purpose, really in that knowing of an immense wealth of truth, understanding, insight. And on the other side here's Uranus and Sedna, another really powerful duo, one of these three which I mentioned, and the third one being Chiron and Eris. But Uranus and Sedna, this is the earthquake. This is shaking things open, bringing things from the deep and arousing it into information, into ideas which are floating around. I mean, after all, this is hexagram 20, which is contemplation, which is all about using the mind in a very focused and intentional way, opposed naturally with hexagram 34 here, starting at 007, 30 seconds. Interesting that then kind of reaching over the edge of the classic endings and beginnings of science. So it's kind of two different systems, you could say, interacting with each other. They're different. They're definitely two totally different frameworks, but how they link into each other, this in itself shows the some really powerful understanding of the complexity of these dividing lines, that they are not all that clearly defined, that there's continuance of sorts on another level which is happening. 34, power of the great. Here it was the last degrees, as I said, into 0030 was the possession of in great measures, and followed by power in excess, so to say. It's not quite that. It's what's the word exactly? It's yeah, I guess it is. Sometimes I forget the exact names of hexagrams. Anyway, forgive me for that. So this chart in itself, as I say, speaks volumes, and I will only add one more thing. Here, when Saturn entered this section of Pisces on April the 5th, 2025, we had this midheaven in the 24th degree of Capricorn, midnight point, source point, the 24th degree of Cancer, here nicely framed by Mars and the Moon and Mars, which again is the power of the people, in a simple way said, caring for tradition, caring for what keeps us alive as a species. That's what really Cancer is all about, is the caring, the loving nature of making sure we preserve, we educate, we pass on the knowledge. It's the roots of the tree, and that is where Jupiter has now risen into. So it's really a sign that whatever has been sown is now starting to become expressed. And there's so much hiding there which is just about to break into the open. This chart in itself says it all. Anyway, I leave it at that. Just a quick teaser. As I say, there is between this date of October the 4th and on the November the 28th, we will have all the outer planets shift or change energies in some way or other. So this is kind of Saturn energy gives the framework. Actually, I quickly guide you through. So the next one is Pluto changing direction on the 14th of October. Interestingly here, when the Sun is at 21 degrees Libra. Interesting that October 14th is the birthday of, you know it, Charlie Kirk, and you will be surprised if you don't know that one yet. The other epic figure in latest American history, George Floyd, was born on that very same day, October 14th, naturally a few years earlier, but it still means both these gentlemen had their birth sun at 21 degrees Libra, and naturally the Earth on the other side, so which is, as you probably know, those of you who follow my recordings, the axis of Juno in the American nation's birth chart, the Declaration of Independence of July the 4th, 1776. That's where Juno is, and that is where Chiron is. So it is this powerful Juno-Chiron opposition, which I have repeatedly mentioned in, I guess, as far back as 2020, that this is the critical axis of the awakening of the United States of America, of the population overcoming the divisions which have been seeded, falling prey for all this left, right, you name it, black, white, all, yeah, you name it. It's so multidimensional in a way, those polarizations which have been subjected to us human beings. Anyway, again, repeating myself, it is that energy of devotion, faith, coming to a place where you know there's nothing we can do anymore. We have gone through all the man-made solutions, ideas. We have to reach out to some higher frequencies and ask for help, but in a very humble way, understanding that we are the creator of it all, that we are really the ones who decide where it goes, but we have to focus our energy in the right direction, and that is seeming to rise now to a much more spiritual level. That is what I see. And this Pluto station particularly, I mean, Pluto has also crossed the line into the let me just get that right. No, it is actually its first station in Aquarius. Sorry, I was almost wanting to say something wrong. That was last year when Pluto dipped one more time into Capricorn, which is now what is happening to Saturn and Neptune both, but also to Uranus. All these three are dipping back into the former zodiac sign. Pluto already has this behind him and is now first time really starting from 0 in the new energy of Aquarius. So this in itself is also a big moment. And with a Jupiter Moon conjunction, how much better can it get? Actually, this is President Trump's Venus Saturn conjunction. Venus Saturn, kind of the taking responsibility for the well-being of the American nation. That's how you could paraphrase it in a way. And again, you may think of him as what you want. He has been put here in history. I just want to say these much few words. There's a very clear sign that he is an original character. Naturally, we know that he is an archetype, I would even say. He was born in a total lunar eclipse, actually just before the eclipse went total. That's when Mr. Donald Trump was born, which in itself shows you that he has this. It's a kind of a upsetting energy, an eclipse. I mean, just remember how in early times in history people reacted. They became afraid. The gods had removed whatever the moon from the sky. There's all these fables and myths of that's why we call the two lunar nodes where the eclipses happen, which are here right now, the dragon's head and the dragon's tail, which has the power to eat up one of the luminaries. So anyway, again, going kind of a bit sideways here, but still this is important to be recognized and not to be either for nor against, but just see it as what it is, as part of history, as part of the setting of this stage at this point in time to make happen what has to happen. We need powerful characters. We have to really honor them and give them the appreciation they require. They not just require, but they really, I'm missing the word, you know what, they deserve it. That's the way I want to say it. So anyway, that is October 14th, so mid of month. Then October 22nd, now Neptune changes energies. Just a little force to prepare you for what's coming. We will definitely look at these charts once more as we get closer, but look at that. That is Saturn and Neptune again at the very root of the chart. This is what it's all about at this time in history, in human evolution. It is the coming to terms that nothing can be believed anymore. Everything is potentially a lie. So it is that we are now in total confusion territory on one side. You could say you're here on a slippery slope, out on an ice field. Every step you take makes you glide in different direction. It is literally also a sign of that deep need to reach out to a higher force, higher plane of help and guidance, and that is actually then also what helps it manifest that we start building the receptors, so to say, when we start reaching out. It's again a matter of going there in your imagination, in your practice, in your thoughts of reaching out to the higher, and not really being contented anymore with again that so-called flat earth story. I guess you know what I mean. So when Neptune changes into Pisces, Neptune being here really the most accentuated planet of the chart, this in itself shows you again this is a highly powerful period. Neptune will be entering in on the 22nd, actually with the Sun now here in this last degree of Libra, again at the culmination of understanding the complexity of human relationship, if you want. And then okay, that's yet another, that's really the centerpiece here. That is, yeah, I have to put it all in one episode, sorry. Sorry for you guys, I really try to make things shorter. I have a hard time with that, sorry about that. But this is really the centerpiece. This is heliocentric astrology, is where the energies are really emanating from, and we then pick them up and we are kind of modulating, translating them into the geocentric version, how we perceive it. It is our natural perception, which is what defines our experience. That's how it goes, and as each of our perception is slightly different, we each experience, see things from a different angle, experience a different world. Yes, think about it. It's really, there's as many universes as there are focal points in it. Every focal point slightly has a different angle to what is occurring. So at the very base of it is the solar frequency. The sun is really the beginning of life in this solar system, at least. We are all solar beings, extensions of the solar consciousness, of the solar logo, that energy which was worshipped naturally by all the cultures of the past. So the sun is the center of the game. We have over and again, actually, also in your birth chart, you know, it is what describes you most generally as your sun sign. So when, from the sun's perspective, Saturn is crossing from the end of the zodiac, from Pisces into Aries, this is a whole new beginning of experiencing reality, teaching what is important from ground up. And yes, Saturn is the teacher, is the one which gives us the life lessons. So this is really a very, very big moment in time. So then again, we are seeing here Chiron and Aries. You see these repetitions, Chiron and Aries. Yes, this is the tickling out of the truth. Chiron is the healer. He is exposing the wound so it can heal in the sunlight, being taken care of nature. But before that can happen, yes, you have to expose it, you have to clean it. And Aries being the one which is, on one hand, kind of instigating the release of hidden frictions, bringing the conflict into the open, allowing it to resolve again under the day of light, under the light of day, sorry. But you see, this is repeating energies in slightly different ways. I mean, yes, we have Uranus and Sedna, which are also doing some amazing shifting here. And then naturally the third one, as I keep getting back to the really basic one of Saturn and Neptune, rebirthing, redesigning, reinventing the whole social context of humanity's expression. That's as far as I would go. It's a really big year. It will be 2026. So 1 year, 2 plus 2 plus 4 adds up. 2 plus 2 plus 6. 2026. Yes, 2 plus 2 plus 6 adds up to 10. Adds up to 1. You get it. It's the beginning. If you go back 2017, 2008, 1999. The last few years of number 1 frequency 2017 particularly. That's what's coming. Yes, it's super exciting. Now okay, I'm not yet finished here, so we here still this is now the geocentric chart of that moment when Saturn in heliocentric perspective is entering that new sign. This is how it looks from Earth. Just thought I'd bring this chart up because of here the moon being in close proximity again of that duo, but now in Taurus, in the Venus opposition. Interesting. So it is naturally not directly experiential at that moment, but it's still, that is kind of the frequency you're getting with Mars, particularly at 0 degrees in Sagittarius again. Yes, I mean there's much more in this chart if you want, but just ending here my quick presentation with Uranus then retrograde on November the 8th. Uranus coming back to its earlier domicile, so to say, Taurus, where it has been for the last 7 years. One more last round in Taurus, whatever that will mean, with Saturn this time here at the 7th house cusp, meaning yes, I guess it's again about bringing things into visibility in a very simple way said. Saturn always is kind of that force which attracts things to dense and to become more physical. And last but not least, we have Jupiter turning retrograde on the 11th of November, and it is exactly at the 7th house cusp. Anyway, I'll leave you with this exactly at midday, by the way, and this is the okay, this is the chart for Philadelphia, right? It's again showing that this will mainly express or strongly express in the Americas, whatever is to come. And this is the global chart for that moment, then November 11th, with Sedna right on the ascendant. Interesting. Pluto here at the top of the chart. I don't yet exactly know what to think of this, but it's kind of yes, again bringing things up from the deep. It's a revelation which is taking place. One could say, yes, the vault is opened with all that deep information from more than 10,000 years of journey through the zodiac. And yeah, I guess that's it. And we reached the 28th of November, and then kind of the Saturn has gone through a long phase of absorbing, preparing, and then starting to move forward again. This will be a critical turning point. Thank you for joining, listening, and sorry it's always a little too long, I know. I hope you're making it to the end. If so, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and if you feel like, share it with your friends and whomever you might be interested in. Love you all. Bye bye.